first, I wanted to thank my amazing panelists for being here. Thank you, guys. Second, I want to tell you all that these are incredible people in the video industry. They've all been working in video for a really long time. Any video question that you have today, even if it's not about original programming, feel free to ask. So this is supposed to be interactive. I want you to ask questions. So to my great panelists, I'm going to go across. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and 1 or 2 sentences about what you do.
So I'm Betsy Morgan. I'm president of The Blaze. I work for Glenn Beck. I was formerly the CEO of the Huffington Post, where I worked with Arianna Huffington. So Arianna Huffington and Glenn Beck, 2 of the most interesting people in media like ever. And I worked in traditional media for a whole decade before that. And I think my brain got so numb working at CBS News, I had to go and sort of shake it up and help build the Huffington Post, and now I'm building The Blaze.
I'm Megan Cunningham from Magnet Media. We're a strategic studio. So basically that means that we work with about 60 different brands to assist them in the transition from traditional advertising to content marketing, largely video-based.
I'm Erick Schonfeld. I'm head of content and co-founder of TouchCast, and we help media companies explore ways to create interactive video. And my background is as a journalist. I was the editor of TechCrunch and was a technology and magazine journalist before that.
My name is J.R. McCabe. I came to Time Inc. about 18 months ago to lead the video and television business globally for the Time Inc. portfolio. And until Friday, we're still part of the Time Warner family. And then we spin out to a public company on Friday.
So you're not busy or anything?
No.
Not at all. Okay, so now you know who they all are. So keep thinking about questions because you can ask anytime about anything video related or anything else if you guys are okay with that. Okay, so my number 1 question for the panel, which why you guys are here, what do you like the most about digital video? You can go in order, you can think about it.
I'll jump in. I mean, I think the opportunity is the number one answer. I think, the last 2 sessions I had a chance to see, we talked about content creative, and what Brian's doing, I think, is fantastic as far as the films and surfacing them. I think what digital videos allowed us to do is to bring storytelling to life in a variety of lengths, in a variety of ways. We have a very, very participatory model right now in culture where, we are now in this space where folks can tell us what they want. In the years gone by when we all grew up, passive audiences were told, Nielsen ratings were what they were given back to us, and that's what we dealt with. We're in a very real-time business right now, so opportunity is really there, and we have audiences who will, in near real time, tell us what they do and don't want. And while we always have to maintain our integrity and storytelling is a key to quality, I think the opportunity to tell new stories in new ways is the best thing for me.
Megan?
I think that it is a vast landscape when you talk about what is original video programming right now. We started the year with working with Budweiser and their agency on the first Vine commercial that was going to be translated into a television spot. And then 2 days later, we were working with Toyota to do so that was 6 seconds. 2 days later, we were working with Toyota to do a 60-minute Google Hangout that engaged, audio influencers through a reality show star. So it was, this really wild variation in terms of duration, in terms of consumption, in terms of what the business objectives were, in terms of the creative approach. The Toyota shoot had GoPro cameras that were, strung throughout a California desert that we rented. It involved a crew of about 60 people. The Vine shoot was like 3 individuals and arguably more engaging. I think it makes your head spin in terms of all the creative possibilities, and sort of picking the right strategy is our bias. We're really big around sort of the audience analytics and starting with a strategic approach to brand programming rather than just sort of jumping in and hoping that your video catches attention of your right audience.
So I totally echo what Megan said, that in the space there are no rules and you get instant feedback on what people like, don't like, what you could do differently. So it's immersive and interactive, and I think it is all about great storytelling. But I love the fact that there are no rules.
I would just echo that telling stories in new ways is really the opportunity here. And up until now, the internet has really transformed video in one way, and that's in offering a new distribution channel, and that's transformed the way we watch video tremendously, to the point where my kids don't even turn on the big screen. They're always just going on YouTube. But what hasn't really changed so much yet is how we create and consume that content, and the fact that it is in a digital medium gives us this opportunity to create interactive, immersive experiences that are native to the web, native to digital platforms, and I think we're just beginning to explore what that means.
You like video so much you jump in and out of it.
That's right.
So if you guys are lucky or unlucky if you don't like to be in front of the camera, Erick will actually interview you interactively in the corner. And you literally get to jump in and out of videos, which I got to do earlier this week, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so it's really fun. It's really engaging. It's a different way to tell stories. It's arguably a better and more emotional way for brands to interact with audiences. What's the most challenging thing about video?
I think the fact that there's a new platform every 30 to 60 days, essentially, that we all have to be paying attention to, and that's a meaningful impact on the whole industry. So that doesn't necessarily mean that, obviously last year you had Pinterest take off, Instagram video, Vine, like all out of the blue, and for those who weren't sort of embedded in Silicon Valley, didn't see a lot of that coming. So it's like, we're all about planning, and the earlier panel here was about looking longer term and building brands over multiple quarters and multiple years, and then you sort of get blindsided to a certain degree around the opportunities for innovation and being nimble and sort of operating more like a startup. So I think there's a balance that has to be made, and that's the biggest challenge between longer term thoughtful strategy and short term nimbleness.
And I think there's dragging your audience to, Megan makes a good point, dragging your audience to a bunch of new platforms can be hard. Finding new audience on new platforms can be amazing, but then you have other audiences that didn't migrate to those platforms, so you feel a little schizophrenic, I think.
Yeah, it's shelf life, right? I mean, where do you distribute the videos and how do you get your audience? And the shelf life of any given video seems to be shorter and shorter. What's the attention span of your audience? You can have a large audience thrown to content because it's being shared a lot on Twitter and Facebook, et cetera. But how do you build your own platform, your own website, your own platforms, mobile as well as destination sites in and of themselves, right? How do you get back to not, we're never going to go back to the TV age of scheduled program where we have appointment TV that exists a little bit, not too much. There's maybe like a dozen shows that still do that. But what's the version of appointment TV on the web where people are looking forward to the next version and that next iteration, and they're waiting to see that, and they'll be driven to it because they remember how great the experience was last time.
Yeah, I pretty much echo what the panel says. I think for us, it's everything we do. It's how you stand out in a world. You talked before. I think Jason was saying something before about you can't ever create viral. There's no way, not a chance. But what you do know is there's a lot more out there than there ever has been before. So we have clients who want to have scalability, they want accountability, they want quality at the fore. How do you consistently create media and marketing strategies around a piece of content or a series of content in a world where you have literally millions, if not tens of millions of choices in a 7 or 5 or 3 day period? And I think that's the biggest challenge for us. We've got a portfolio of brands we're really proud of. They give us some permission to speak to folks. They give us a little bit of a head start, but that equity and building consistent habitual viewing is a huge, huge challenge in this space because there's so much opportunity.
Okay, so none of you guys said it was challenging to make money off video, which I'm a little bit surprised by.
I wasn't done.
But you hinted in that direction. So arguably making original shows at the quality that all of you guys are making and producing is expensive. It's an investment. So what's the trade-off? Like, how important is it to advertisers, to your audience, to actually be creating original programming versus third-party, library, evergreen, things that might be less higher quality than what you guys are all putting out today?
So we only have original programming, and we have a website, theblaze.com. We have an over-the-top video subscription network where people pay us $10 a month to get a 24/7 stream with 8-9 hours a day of original programming, and then we're also distributed on cable, and that network is also distributed on cable and satellite. And our big challenge was when Glenn left Fox News in 2011, he said, I want to start my own network. And we said, that is a crazy dream, and that will never happen. And he said, I think it can happen, and if you can find me a back end, and we use Major League Baseball as our back end, if you can find me sort of a back end, I'm going to create a network. And we said, that will never happen because we have no money to do that. And what Glenn did in such an amazing way, and it's been written up in many places, is that he managed to really sort of single-handedly, in an amazing way, market this video subscription network to an audience that no one would believe would buy purchase an OTT subscription package to get hundreds of thousands of people at launch date to tune into something they had never seen before. And that paid for everything, right? That paid for and continues to pay for 2 HD studios in 2 cities, all of our makeup artists and our studio crews and our long-form programming and our short-form programming, and that's been quite extraordinary.
It's like unbundling before the unbundle.
Unbundling before the unbundle.
Right, so
and then now we're like rebundling because we're on cable and sat, so.
Overbundling.
Overbundling.
So JR, you have multiple different types of content. You have full-length documentaries, your short form, you have all these different things, and now new studios across the country. So how does that factor in when you're looking at advertiser opportunity versus audience, and what's the balance?
Yeah, well, I'll keep it as short as possible. The answer is we're serving, to Becky's point, we're serving a lot of original content. We are not trying to be everything to everybody, but for us, it serves really a couple purposes. We need to be very fast to market for original content purely from editorial. Again, going back to building habits, you have to have content consistently so your consumers know that it's there, as well as cultivating new audiences. So the multiple studios, we have 3 here in New York, we have 1 in Birmingham where our life and home business is, and we have 1 we just built in Los Angeles, on Wilshire. And so it allows us at multiple points to create content in near real time if we need to. It doesn't also stop us from doing longer form content. The second piece of that, beyond original editorial, is we have a tremendous amount of business in the studios business, which is branded entertainment. Work specifically with and for publishers who want us to look through our lens, but we will never sell our marks for our logos, so we create content for them. We did this documentary in Asia several months ago. We just finished a lot of work for a very large automotive group also in Tokyo, and what it allows us to do now, to answer your question, Rebecca, is we can both cater to our editorial needs, which are significant, but also to the advertisers who want to tap into that and utilize our storytelling ability. So that's what we've done. And just on your investment point, and this is not cavalier at all, it's a sunk cost. It's not coming back. It's table stakes for us. We don't have a choice. We need to evolve our brands. That's why we're investing. That's why we're committed, and that's why we're doing so much original.
I see a parallel here, especially what Betsy said about how Glenn Beck just basically became his own network in effect, right? And he can do that because he has a following. But there's a parallel to the early days of blogging where the tools made it possible for anyone to be their own publisher. And now we're seeing the same thing with the tools are making it possible for anyone to be their own TV network. And part of that is distribution is you can start with the internet as distribution pipe. And then on the creation side, that's what we're trying to do with TouchCast. We're a TV studio and an iPad, TV studio also in a PC, and trying to give really what used to be $100,000 worth of equipment is now available in this because of just the cost curve, and it gets better every every 18 months. It's
you don't have
amazing.
A satellite hiding in there somewhere?
What?
Satellite track?
Satellite tracking, no. But it's just amazing. Even since we started, things that you can do. We have like on an iPad, we can do green screen, chroma key removal. We can import multiple videos, and have multiple videos playing within a video and compositing in real time. All of these things, and the start of TouchCast was actually a broadcast quality, big, huge refrigerator-sized piece of equipment, and that's all been shrunk into this, and that's because of just Moore's Law, and Moore's Law is hitting television, and this is just one example. And the reason I point this out is because while it's Glenn Beck today, that's going to go down the curve, and people who have an audience or who have talent are going to be able to do with video what everyone has been able to do with publishing. So I think it's just the start.
Yeah, and if you look at the sort of trending, that's a really good point in terms of the cost of the barrier to entry and the capital required. I think it's really similar to what happened in tech startups a couple years ago, where it was like all of a sudden all the VCs that were early stage were kind of out of luck with the top startups because they didn't really need to raise. They were able to, the tools had changed so rapidly that they were more affordable. People could spend 6 weeks actually prototyping something and get a minimum viable product out in the market. You're seeing the same thing now with major celebrities, and by celebrities I mean with a small c, social celebs, who are rising to power and commanding more brand dollars without an agent, without a studio, just basically sort of on their own, and obviously Jason and Maker are grabbing them as fast as they're sprouting up around the globe. But I think that there's a whole ecosystem of that. If you go to VidCon in a couple of weeks, you'll see that's sort of the next generation of media star.
And it's a different platform, right? So mobile has changed everything, arguably. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about the difference of content creation depending on platform? Like, do you look at it differently? Is everything just accessible to everybody? There's long form, there's short form, there's TV, phones, web, iPad. So how do you program to it and create content the best way?
It's interesting. When we launched it's now called the Blaze TV network, but it was called, when it launched, GBTV. We launched it on, you can subscribe via your phone, via your tablet. You can watch it on a 60-inch screen. You can watch it on your computer. Both Glenn's 5 o'clock show and all the other programming the network has. And we thought, okay, so those are all totally different experiences where, something that looks fantastic on a big screen, doesn't look so fantastic on a phone. And we really sort of erred towards the iPhone and the iPad, where if you see Glenn or any of our other network talent on a 60-inch screen, they look gigantic. Because we didn't want the experience on mobile to look so far away, right? To look like these kind of little ants on your phone. So the guys shoot our camera people actually shoot very tight, and they shoot very close, where I think if you sort of put all the different, if you lined up all those different devices, you'd say, holy cow, what we did the worst at was, putting it on a 60-inch screen. But yet, what's so interesting is it was clearly good enough for Dish Network to want to take us a year and a half ago and to be picked up by Cablevision and picked up by 60 plus other cable and satellite providers. So that wasn't the gating factor, why we've been able to penetrate in the cable and satellite space. It's all been about content. People seem to be happy with sort of a giant-sized face of Glenn on their big TV set because they like the content and they like the stories that he's telling and they like the content coming from our other talent.
Yeah, we're biased, but we think this is a precursor to where television is going, and we certainly see the majority of our consumer views on this device because we're sort of tablet first, even though everything's available on the web as well. And it's just because it's a better experience. It's sort of shot for tablet, and the interactivity is just more intuitive on a tablet form rather than clicking around. But you have to shoot with the notion that it could appear anywhere. It could appear on terrestrial TV, it could appear on an Android phone, it could appear on a tablet, and there has to be fallback positions so that it works, in different variations. But I think all of that is it's all converging, right? Because there's if you see something and the experience is best on a mobile phone or best on a tablet, then you wonder why isn't it as good on your TV in your living room. And then the folks who make stuff for the living room, the folks who make those TVs, they also want to have all the bells and whistles as well.
So Megan, is convergence good or bad? When you're actually creating content originally for brands and they say, we want it to work on every platform all the time, what does that do for you?
It depends on what your objective is. So I think, I don't know that you need actually to be on every platform or that everyone needs to be on every platform. I think that, there is some power and selectivity and sort of, depending on what your business objective is.
Knowing where your audience is.
Yes, precisely. I think there is wasted effort in across the board in our industry, and just sort of being there. And Betsy mentioned earlier, but just kind of the race to the shiny thing. And I think that that's the whole idea of Peter Drucker's definition of strategy is decide what you're not going to do. And so those who are more focused, I think, and understand audience analytics specifically, when you're putting together a brand programming guide, you'll have more resources to corral around the places where you're going to drive the biggest impact.
Jared, do you want to add anything on the?
No, I mean, I think Betsy and Megan and Eric hit it. I don't think we're at a point where we're programming for a device to this point yet. I mean, Betsy's point is right on. We shoot medium close-ups and different shots. There's graphics treatments, et cetera. I think the one piece on the mobile side, just to go back to that, is that the creative still hasn't helped anyone in the mobile space at this point. And I've had this conversation with a lot of agencies. We have a very, very difficult experience as you're a user, depending on whether you're smartphone or tablet, wherever you're optimizing for whatever platform. And so we're still not changing all programming just for devices, but there's not creative. There's not creative that takes in mind the consumption habits. We're a company that we have almost 90 million unique visitors, unduplicated in the U.S. monthly. More than half of our users are now mobile. So that's something we think about every day. We live and breathe it, but the creative still doesn't support it.
Sometime soon. Okay, audience, questions? I'm going to keep digging away at them, but I know there are questions out there. Go ahead.
I think that there's more than one answer to that. One is what's your goal? If your goal is to have the best viewing experience for your audience, you should pick the platform where that's going to happen. If your goal is to reach the broadest audience, then you want to have something that has at least the lowest common denominator experience across everything. And regardless, you want to think about that anyway. We're in a multi-platform world, and I might start a video on my iPhone and end it on my TV. And so it's got to be, and while we're not yet necessarily at the point where it's exactly the same experience, for plain vanilla video, it pretty much is. So.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
I think at some point you won't have to worry about it because it'll just work and everything will get distributed out and everything will be converted to the right format on the right device, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, there is a lot of activity in terms of that whole, sort of broader syndication that is evolving right now from a technology standpoint, but it's not established. I think that from a creator standpoint, my advice would be try to own one platform first and find your audience on it, and then think about the other places where you can expand. Those who succeeded wildly at becoming sort of the Vine celebrity network were first there and only focused on Vine. They understood everything about it. They knew how to aggregate audiences. They were engaging. They were responding to every comment. They would retweet their tweeters. It was just like, you need to be obsessed, and I think same happened with the YouTube celebrity network. They're all, basically it was over before anyone knew it was being created in the sort of traditional media world, right? There were like 1,000 leaders, and prior to that in blogging. And so I think that, sort of being first on those platforms, understanding what works within those environments for the audience and engaging with those audience members on a personal level is the key to succeeding. It's so important. And then beyond that, could you, think about rolling out a Glenn Beck-like network or, sort of building an empire? Absolutely. I think that's within reach, but it's difficult to start there as an individual. I think it's just you're too resource constrained.
Yeah, we see that on TouchCast as well. People create, and it changes the way you create your content because you're creating it with the capabilities in mind, and there's native folks on the platform.
Yeah. Are there TouchCast celebrities yet?
There are celebrities within the platform, yeah, but it's still early days.
That's cool. We'll see. You can own that.
Loaded question. That goes to Betsy first.
Carlos, I love
No
that
press in the room. Go, Betsy.
Well, if there's press or not, it doesn't matter. I think what's really interesting is, we made a really conscious bet not to bet, to Richard Plepler said it earlier this week. He said, he's the guy who runs HBO. Optionality is key, right? I have no idea how quickly I think unbundling will happen. I don't know exactly what form it's going to take. The cable industry is now saying, okay, we're going to go from big bundles, big expensive bundles, to mini bundles. So, because we don't want unbundling to happen, and maybe that'll happen, maybe that won't happen, maybe the whole system breaks overnight. We haven't seen, with 110 million TV households, we have not seen, we haven't seen the cable bundle break yet. There are definitely cord nevers and cord cutters out there, but not in tens of millions of people yet. But something's coming and something's definitely going to change. And our theory was like, you know what? Wherever people are, we want to be in as many places as they are and try to reach them, and the industry will sort itself out. But there's definitely change coming. I just think no one can predict how quickly it's going to come. You go out to the Valley and people are like, what? Why, you still have a cable package? Like, but you go to, I spent a lot of time, Glenn's in Dallas, I spent a lot of time in Texas, and people still watch cable TV in Dallas and still pay, big bucks for cable packages, so.
Well, that's kind of the key, right? I mean, what Betsy says is the key to this. I'm watching Netflix in one room, Hulu in another, and we still have the full optimum package of everything you can possibly buy on Long Island. And unbundling, I mean, TV's demise has been much talked about for years, as was print and as was everything else. It's still the biggest bang for the buck. And as you look at it, content needs to be ubiquitous as far as its delivery and offering. Will there be a change? I think there is going to be a change, but we certainly don't think it's going to be something that's going to precipitate a whole groundswell of anything different and change the environment. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it'll be a continued slow change. I think there'll be more opportunity. How many more Netflix and Hulus are going to happen? I don't know. How many more Orange is the New Black exist? How many more, projects with Kevin Spacey will exist? How many new YouTube stars? How many new TouchCast stars? How many Glenn Beck networks? I mean, those are offering opportunities for greater viewership. I don't think that necessarily signals unbundling is imminent.
Carlos, I think, one thing that's been talked about a lot is the key for programmers is you gotta own your content. And I think what Netflix is gonna find over time is one of their biggest challenges is not owning their content, right? Including House of Cards, they've licensed that, they don't own that content. HBO, on the other hand, owns not its movies, obviously, but it owns a lot of its original content. And that becomes valuable because as people move around the universe and they want to access you in an OTT way, or they want to access you through cable or whatever, to be able to have the, not have all these windowing opportunities that some other gatekeeper sets, but to own that content and port that content is going to be really important.
I think it's going to change just because it sucks for the user, right? For the viewer. I'm ready to download 12 Years a Slave when it's in the theaters, and just because it's hard to get a babysitter for 3 kids, I'm not gonna, I might not make, I will never make it to the theater. I'll make it, maybe once or twice. But I'm willing to pay and pay a theater price for it. And the whole windowing, it has to collapse at some point. It's just because there's so much demand for it, and somebody's going to start testing, and already they have been testing. You can see it already, where there's things that are in theaters, that are maybe smaller films, and you can watch it on demand just as well. And the the audience for that is probably equal to the number of people watching it at home. Now, if I'm watching it's available to me through Verizon or Optimum or Time Warner Cable, it's also available on this device because I've got my cable app on this, right? And now and more of that content is becoming available on there as well. It's like, oh wait, but now Time and Sports Illustrated is starting to do amazing video stuff as well. Why isn't that available?
Thank you.
Right? Why isn't that available to me in the same place, right? And it kind of is, because there'll be an app that's for that as well. But I think all of this, it doesn't matter where it originates, right? But you're going to have a place where you view it, and you're going to want to have all your content there. It's just like already it's kind of schizophrenic. I'm at home and I'll turn on the I have my Netflix available on my big smart TV. I also have Amazon available on my smart TV, and most of it is the same content, right? But sometimes there's like one thing that, okay, where's Orange is the New Black? Is that Netflix? Is that, I don't even remember. I don't even care. And it's, there's only so many platforms that, you can, that the viewer can keep up with.
Well, but then have we talked about marketing? I mean, let's be honest with each other, right? So Netflix has some of the best marketing campaigns going on for House of Cards. Orange is the New Black the same way, whether it's owned, paid, or any other type. So you talk about the marketing is maybe, I mean, I'd hate to think we're going to get back to marketing wins the day when quality and content should. But marketing has to have a huge impact on specifically that. And I don't think anyone's going to go easily into the night and let a package be unbundled when there's marketing available to both keep that as much as there is for Netflix.
And that's why YouTube works so well. It's like a built-in marketing platform all the time.
Yeah, and ironically, when they launched the premium channels, they did nothing to market those. And so I think that, and I say that with all love of YouTube as our client, but I will say, the fact is, I think that, that's a really, really critical component. So earlier, the question came up around creators and sort of production strategy. I think, there was a recent post, I think it was earlier last week, around those that were succeeding with getting meaningful video traffic. And it was traditional, media entities and individual creators, and they were kind of looking at what were the dynamics around how they rolled out their shows, and a lot of it had to do with the promotional strategy. It was something like a 3-to-1 ratio, 3-to-1, where they're spending that much more time and energy on the promotional effort than they were on the original substance that they're creating. So, and that's massive. And I think if you look at where the dollars go, even from our cable network, the promotions department has a lot of power. And there's, PR efforts and sort of, cross promotion within shows. And so that's really a critical component, I would say, if you're not going to work on behalf, if you're not going to license your content to somebody who's already an expert at distribution, thinking about that facet.
But if you look at Netflix or Amazon or Hulu, or even HBO Go versus the web versus YouTube, right? It's not just the length of the video and the programming, it's shelf space and time on the shelf. So we talked before about how fleeting, a video, the shelf life of any video on the web, you get 50% of your views in the first day or two, right? And then it's just a long tail that goes off. And sometimes it can come back, but usually not. Whereas on, you go to Netflix or HBO Go, and they have front and center the movies that they're promoting, and they're there for weeks. And that's something that I think the web platforms can learn, right? When you have something that's high quality that you can market, don't assume that just because you got 1 million views or 10 million views in the first week that everyone who wants to see it has seen it.
Okay, so to wrap up, I wanted to do a quick rapid fire, one word, one response word. And we're going to go this way. So Betsy, you get the first one. One word response. Social video.
Thrilling.
Video camera.
Ubiquitous.
YouTube.
Conflicted.
Pre-roll.
Money.
You get to come back with, you get interactive video.
The future.
GoPro.
Pioneer? I don't know.
TV.
The past. The past.
I thought you were going to come out with dead, but okay. Sorry, so, and then for all of you guys, finish this phrase. I watch video.
I'll go last.
JR, you got to think for longer. I watch video.
All the time.
To feel.
This is one word? Sorry.
No, you can have a phrase.
Okay.
I watch
I used
video.
to.
I'd say across the spectrum of information to entertaining. Sorry. I know it's boring. I'm sorry.
Betsy.
I watch video to be immersed in a great story.
I watch video on my phone. A little bit more boring. Okay, and the last one is the future of video is?
The Blaze.
Nice.
Going to be defined through creators.
TouchCast, obviously.
All about opportunity.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, panelists.